What do you take for granted in your life? Perhaps it's your loving family. Perhaps it's stability. Perhaps it's education. For most of my life, I took all of these things for granted, and I still do for myself. However, I had an experience 14 years ago when I began teaching in an urban school for expelled students that changed my perception of the world in a dramatic way and made me understand that a lack of access to the very things I took for granted could have an incredible impact on a child's life. The story begins with a boy named Daniel and a teacher new to alternative education. I came from a privileged upbringing. Both of my parents went to college and all of my grandparents have bachelor's degrees. There was never a moment of housing or food instability in my life. And while I knew on an intellectual level that not everyone had the same experiences, it was difficult for me to truly grasp the impact of the availability of resources until I met Daniel. He was one of those students who come along every few years. He was quite brilliant and incredibly personable, and yet was sitting in my class with a monitor strapped around his ankle and a weekly meeting with our staff probation officer. Daniel had missed my class for court, and so was making up a test at lunch about 3 weeks after school began. When he finished the test, we were talking about his plans for the future, and I couldn't contain my curiosity any longer and asked him why he was in trouble. He told me he had been selling drugs. In naivety and horror, I said, "Oh, Daniel, what were you thinking? You're smarter than that." He looked at me and said, "Miss Carr, my mom is addicted to crack. Anything of value in that house, she'll take and sell for more drugs. I have 5 younger brothers and sisters. We don't have any family here, and my mom doesn't have a job. The only way that I can keep my family together is by providing money for rent, money for food, and money for clothes. Now, can you tell me some other job a 16-year-old can have that can provide for a family of 7? I understand the irony of what I do, and I hate selling drugs. I won't sell anything but weed because of my mom. But social services wanted to pull us apart. My grandparents won't have anything to do with us because of my mom, and my closest family lives in Louisiana. What do you think I can do?" Obviously, I didn't have any wise words for this young man. I think I might have said something faltering like, "Well, just don't get caught," because I knew there was nothing I could do and nothing I could say that would change his world. Well, except for one thing. I took into account Daniel's life, and from that moment on, I took into account the lives of every one of my students when I was planning their lessons, when I was deciding what to teach them, and when I was frustrated over a lack of homework or parental support. It changed the way I teach, because I came to a realization that many students come from backgrounds that I cannot even begin to fathom, and the best gift that I can give them is an education that will help pull them out of crippling poverty and horrifying social situations. I can give them the tools they need to claw their way up in society. I cannot assume that any of them have access to technology or homework help or even a safe place to sleep or keep their things. I must provide a rich environment of learning and a supportive environment of caring in order for these students to succeed in a very difficult world.